We need to talk about some stocks that are set to move. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and do you think vampires have a hard time making friends when they're such a pain in the neck? Enphase, ARM, and Tesla. We're going to talk about each of those three companies in this video because I think the technical analyses on these charts are going to surprise you. And I will also tell you about Moomoo and the free stocks, where you can see my buys and sells through my Patreon, and my Tesla stock price prediction and earnings projection that's available, and my options course that I'm building. In the meantime, we are about 10 minutes away from getting the CPI data, and I think that it could be in our favor. We're going to have to watch for that. So we're actually going to start off by looking at the markets, and during this video, when that CPI comes out, I will pop over there and we'll see, and maybe we'll get a little bit more of a feel for what's coming ahead for us in the market today. All right, so let's put up the TradingView app here. Boom, there we go. And so what we're looking at right now is QQQ, and we'll put that up on the daily chart so we can see what's going on. And what we're paying the most attention to right now is the top of this trend line. Actually, I just figured out how to zoom on this thing. There we go. A little bit better, so it's a little bit cleaner for the videos here. And you can see we haven't made it to the trend line yet, although in the pre-market hours, we did get pretty darn close to it. We actually came up around 373 or so. And there's something when we look intraday on this thing, or that we look in those extended trading hours, that it gets even more interesting to when we look to see what's going on. So you can see these green candles and notice how they get narrower and narrower as they ascend here. The RSI is looking pretty good. We're currently over 50. We're in the bullish territory. We're trending upward, and we'll see just how high we go on this. It is important to note whether or not we break this top trend line, and if we overtake these previous peaks that we have over here, because that can signal more bullishness. We do have inflation coming up during the recording of this video, most likely, and then we have big bank earnings coming up as well, and those will hit us tomorrow morning. So this is the last trading day, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get some selling off into the close in anticipation of those bank earnings, getting us sort of positioned and ready for whatever could come our way on Friday. And if the bank earnings come out and they're very positive, then I think that we really do push through this and we start to break out to the upside. So we're going to have to wait and see what the banks have to say about credit tightness. All right, so let's go intraday real quick on the Qs, and then we'll get to the three companies that I had talked about. So when we look at this, minute chart's too much. Let's go to the hour chart. There we go. Looking at the hour chart, what do we have here? So let's zoom in a little bit. Press the wrong button. There we go. Zoom in on this part right here. This is the part that I'm currently watching because it has me just a little bit concerned in the near term for what we could see on this. So if we draw a trend line across the top of these candles and we draw another trend line across the bottom of these candles, what do we happen to notice with that trend line? Now, maybe there's a good representation for what we have, and I suppose that you're welcome to argue that if you want to. So there's the look that we have. This is called an ascending wedge, and this is one that we want to look and see. Maybe we come back and retest it off a little bit of softness from today, giving us a good position on what to expect. We're going to have to watch and see. If we break through this, then we could experience some more softness in the Qs. So we do want to watch that. It doesn't mean that this upward movement is over. It would just mean possibly that we have a little bit of selling off and selling, and we want to plan that. We want to watch for the technicals as they arrive, because that allows us to play both sides of the market, the ups and the downs, and profit either way in our trading. So that is something I wanted to bring to your attention, something that I'm watching for the Qs. Breaking the top of this trend line would be absolutely astounding and huge. We want to watch for that. I'm going to interject for a quick moment while recording. Here are the numbers that came out for the CPI. Core 0.3 month over month as expected. That means year over year inflation coming in at 4.1%, also matching consensus. And then on a non-core basis, 0.4% month over month, a little bit ahead of what we see for consensus, but not entirely concerning. And then the inflation rate year over year coming in at 3.7%, again, just 0.1%, so 10 basis points above consensus. I don't think this is something that is going to seriously rattle the markets or move them in any significant way. So we're going to have to watch and see. It's certainly not the low numbers that would really amp us and be a lot of upward pressure, but they're also not the high numbers that are going to smush the markets back down. Initial jobless claims, by the way, coming in at 209,000 versus the 210,000 that was in there for consensus. So very vanilla as it goes, and honestly, the markets can be okay with vanilla because everything's in line with expectations, which means that they're already priced into the market. So maybe if there was some worry, and now that worry is removed, that we would get higher numbers for inflation or lower numbers for jobless claims. Now some of that worry is gone. This can be a little bit of upward pressure. That said, let's get back to the video. So Enphase, sort of on the hourly basis, has a similar look to what we saw in the Qs. This one, maybe we get a little bit of softness right off the beginning on the hourly chart here. Let's go out to the daily chart, actually, because there's something I want you to see on this, and we're going to reset the chart view. There we go. So we have been trading in a bearish channel on this, and down here is where we're getting really solid support for right now. Now, that doesn't mean that we keep going, but so far we've gotten it. And when we zoom in on this part down here to see the most recent price action, we've come off that historic support that has been there over the past several years, and currently we're between the 50-day simple moving average and the 50-day EMA as we look at this. So let me shift that up for you so you can see it just a little bit better, and maybe I can get an even better zoom for you for your screens as we look at this candle right here. Now, we do want to break up above the 50-period EMA that we have happening, and if I also bring this, let's go back this way so we can see this previous peak that we have over here. And we're going to grab the Fibonacci's, and we're going to go from this top line where we last peaked out, and we're going to go down to the bottom of this one. And then what we're going to do is switch over to the hourly chart on this, and we can see the price action that we've experienced on Enphase and just how well it's been reacting to the Fibonacci. As a matter of fact, look right here. Most recently, where we peaked out and where we had trouble, it's on this line right here. And this line happens to be, let's zoom back out, the 26.3 line. So when we look at that, when's our next resistance come in? Not until we get all the way up to 142. So according to the Fibonacci's, if we get a strong move upward, if we're able to break over 131.50, it is possible that we start to see 142.80 come out of that. It is possible also that we get rejected off of this, and if that does happen, then we're moving back down to this 200 period that we have here, and that 200 period moving average that we have, 200 hour, currently happens to be at about $120 per share. So we're going to have to watch that, and we could take a smaller look in here to see what exactly is going on, but this is something right now that the momentum maybe off the RSI that we're a little bit overbought, that we do soften just a little bit before making that next run. We're going to have to wait and see if that's what we get from Enphase, but Enphase does have some serious upside, and it has a deep enough options pool that we could actually take advantage of something like call options in this. Not financial advice, of course, to do your own research and due diligence, but if you think that we have that momentum, if we break over the 131.50, then we have green lights to move up from there to about 142. So that's something that I'm watching. Should we break that upper trend line, or that upper Fibonacci, I should say. So let's move on from there to ARM. And on ARM, we're going to go out to the daily chart again on this one to see what's going on. And that is a crazy view. There we go. We'll reset this. And we're actually getting enough of a view of this finally to get some technicals going. And you can see we have this nice little W shape. I think it's possible that we break to the upside sometime soon on ARM. I think that this is one very much worth looking at. Now, it has IPO'd going all the way back to September the 14th. So that is something that doesn't give us a lot of data on the charts. Let's go to the hour chart and see better what this thing looks like. So we'll zoom back out and we'll see that we broke down through this line here, which happens to be currently, we'll pop that up there, about 56.46 is what we have. Maybe you can argue it should be a little bit higher. We do have a higher low coming in. We are right now seeing a double top, and you can see the sell-off. However, I think that we have the momentum in this, and we also have this bottom trend line that I think that we could break through the top of this. You could even argue a bit of a cup and handle look right here, that if we start breaking before returning to this trend line, we're going to retest that top, and it is possible that we pop through it. So watch the RSI on the hourly chart, and that can be very telling for us. And above 57, I think that this 57, by the way, is a little bit above that. There's 57. It's just above this candle that we have right here. I'll zoom in a little bit more for you so you can see what that candle looks like. There we go. So 57 is up here where this dotted line is, and that's just above that peak that you have right here on this candle where we found resistance before. So for ARM, definitely something to watch for. And if we break above that, we have room. I mean, honestly, the next time that I see any sort of significant resistance on this is at about 60.88. So it's about $3 up. So that could be about another 5-6% up from where we're at right now. If we grab the Fibonacci's on this and go from the most recent low that we have to the most recent high that we have on this one, and we can reverse this so we can look at it differently, you could see if we continue to retrace, the level that we want to hold is right now at about 53.59 on this one in order to see a good retracement back up to the upside. If we drop back down below that, then we could retest this lower trend line. So just to be aware of that, just look for it in this. Maybe we get it because we get a little bit of a head and shoulders look happening right here more recently, and this more recent information is going to be very telling, and we can even show that in Tesla's chart what that looks like. So let me get rid of that Fibonacci. There we go, and we're going to redraw it this time where we go from the top down to the bottom. And we're going to zoom out from there. And it looks like I said, right around $60 per share. I said a little bit above that, almost to 61 is where we start to hit that next fib. So we want to be looking for that one. And it is something that could possibly break to the upside. It doesn't mean it won't have a little bit more softness first. So keep ARM on your radar as well. Moving over to our friend Tesla, which I have my stock price prediction over at the Patreon. You can go check that out. It's Q3, Q4, and every year up through 2030. And I think it's a very worthwhile document. I spent a lot of time working on it, and I think you're going to be very impressed by what you see. And it's a very promising outlook that we have as we extend through the years on Tesla. So for Tesla, we've been in a bullish channel for a while. I don't have the upper trend line drawn on right now. I think the more interesting thing right now is this top trend line that I have right here, showing us that right now we're in a symmetric wedge pattern or a symmetric triangle pattern. And which way we break out of this right now is yet to be seen. You can see I had this drawn on before we came up and tested this out. So far, we're obeying it. And so will we keep obeying that? Well, I think it's worthwhile to look to see where we've recently been at. So if we actually grab this Fibonacci and show the last top to bottom on this, there we go. And then we go down to the hourly chart. This really shows us a better view and just how well we've been obeying the Fibonacci's on something like Tesla. So going backwards, you can see this is kind of weird. But if you look forward from the Fibonacci, the most recent low to the most recent high that we have, and I can actually draw this on here a little bit better. There we go. Now you can see this adjustment from most recent low to most recent high. This gives us a very clear picture of where those support and resistance levels are. And as of right now in the pre-market, currently sitting at about 261-ish, 261.69, so almost 262. And so if we break through that, we actually have room down to about 256. And then the 50% fib is really worthwhile to pay attention to, 252. Now, there is a little bit more that you should pay attention to on this as well. Besides the Fibonacci levels, right now, we are actually in a small bullish channel on this one. So let me grab a hold of that and drag it down this way. I'm going to redraw this to be a little bit better for us. There we go. That should go up and this should go down to include that peak. And then one more little tweak here. And I think that's beautiful. So if we break out of this, we can come back down and retest the 256 and 252 levels. If we stay in it, we can return it. And that would also break the trend line on this, by the way, up to that 269, 270 level. And should we break this trend line, I think that that's something that could show us some significant upside that right now we don't see with the current fib that's up there. But if we go back a little bit to a previous peak that we had, we can see that a little bit better. The previous peak that we'd have on this is 274. And then beyond that is about where we find that 280 level coming in. So above this line, 274, above 270, I should say, we have room up to about 274 to 280. So be on the lookout for those for Tesla as well. Here's a quick reminder for you to get your free stocks from Moomoo by using your link down in the, down in the description. Go ahead and click that link. Here's your deposit levels. Here's the free stocks valued up to $2,000 a piece. You can get a shot at Tesla itself or Google at that $5,000 level. You get one of them guaranteed. With that, if you want to see what I'm buying and selling to play these markets, how I'm profiting from it, you can come over to the Patreon, sign up. You get my Tesla stock price prediction and earnings forecast up through 2030 as part of that, along with my other research that I have over there and my Discord group, which is absolutely astounding, and also my options course that I'm building out, learning how to amplify your portfolio to capture as much alpha as possible. No guarantee of profit, but using options allows you to capitalize on opportunities that you would otherwise miss, sometimes with very little capital risk. So check that out along your way there. So Enphase, ARM, Tesla, each of those I think are very interesting points right now. The market itself is at a very interesting point, very critical. And if we see a little bit of softness in the markets, I don't think that it's something that turns us back around. We're going to have to wait and see. If we continue our bullish momentum in the markets, each of these stocks can also move in that bullish direction. They can pay off handsomely. Tesla, by the way, its earnings announcement is on October the 18th after the market closes. So make sure that you check out that earnings forecast by that point in time. If we have a run up in Tesla's price, up leading up to the 18th. If we see that move up to 280, I think it's possible that we see some softness coming in to Tesla's price, either right before those earnings are announced or following those earnings that we sell off. So that's if we get that run up prior to Tesla earnings. I'm anticipating that we get a sell off following those earnings or just before those earnings hit. We're going to have to look and see. So Tesla, long-term investor, and I will play the options market on that. If I anticipate a rise, I will play calls. If I anticipate a fall, I will use puts. If I'm not sure, just expect some volatility, I can use a straddle or a strangle. And then there's other things like iron butterflies that are out there, iron condors. There's other ways that you can play these markets to take advantage of the movements that we see. And if those options interest you, check out my options course. Right now, ready to go for the complete beginner, moving into those applications next, guys. Check out the Patreon, join my community. They are wonderful people, incredible opportunities found all the time, not only by me and shared with them, but also them and shared with the rest of the community as well. Don't forget about your free stocks from Moomoo. And guys, thank you for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.